My name is Darrel, electrician's mate, second class. A seagoing tug, only being 200 feet long, was more like a cork than anything. It bounced around out there. But myself, I felt very, very secure on there. And I had faith in the captain that he knew what he was doing, and he was a very good captain. And so I enjoyed it very much. And I spent some time on the USS Abnaki, which was an aircraft carrier. And I didn't feel near as good on an aircraft carrier because you could actually feel the twists of the metal in the rough sea. And the Abnaki was the one that they sent off of Florida and made a reef out of. I really hated to see her go down. It was quite a sight. But the tugboat, we were normally by ourselves. Rarely did we sail with anybody else. And so you were all by yourself out there, and there was times that it was very rough. At the time I was in, I had rode out 4 typhoons. They were very rough. We spent 7 days in one time going to Alaska for a salvage job up there. And all of the hatches were closed for a good week. They dumped all the garbage out on the fantail through an after hatch because nobody was allowed out on decks at all. And things got all washed over the side naturally. And when we got to Alaska, there was 1 tin can that was stuck under a winch. Everything else was perfectly clean. One of our big sea anchors that we were taking up for that job specifically broke loose one time during all the rolling, and the captain got the ship turned into the seas just right so the bosun's mates could get out there, and they made a big spider web out of cable just to hold that because it was sliding back and forth and it was going to tear all the railing and everything off of that ship. And it tore all of our oxygen and acetylene tanks off of one side. It tore one life raft and we lost it, and the superstructure that held the gasoline drums for the whaleboat, it tore that off. And there was a section of bulkhead came out and protected the towing winches and the winches themselves and the controllers. And 10 foot of it tore that off, and it tore the controller off, which was held down by I think 7 1-inch bolts, left about a 4-inch hole in the deck. And when that went, immediately there was about 500 gallons of water poured into the cruise compartment, and they put a plug in that to keep it from getting worse. And the up on the bridge, with the clinometer, they said we took a 63.5 degree roll, which was almost on our side. And they said we were lucky that we even came back from that one. So some of them were pretty rough and maybe a little scary, but I had faith in that tug. And then there was other times when the sea was absolutely flat, just like a plate full of water, and that was a little weird, you might say. It was strange. Just no waves, no nothing. But it was home, and I enjoyed every minute of it. It was typical of any family. There were squabbles and fights and whatnot going on, little arguments, but nothing really bad. And I believe everybody trusted everybody else on there. And we were in I was in the engineering department, which was in the after cruise compartment. And if you needed something, you could ask one of your buddies, and you had it. One time we were out to sea, and the captain came on the speaker, and he said, "This is the captain speaking. I want everyone to stand in one spot. Do not move. There will be somebody come talk to you." And one by one, an officer would come get us and take us down to our compartment and look in our locker and look under our bunks. it seems that somebody had lost a billfold and he thought somebody stole it. So they checked everybody. And when it was all over and done with, they found the billfold in the man's dirty laundry bag, and he had forgot it himself. And everybody was, disgusted with him because he thought somebody had stolen it. But it was really good because it turned out nobody had stolen it. And we went about our business, and everybody was okay with that. All of the tugs kind of rotated in Pearl Harbor. Some of them would be maybe up north in Alaska. Some of them were down closer to the equator. There were some in what they call Westpac, which was the Far East. And the tugs, we spent a lot of time at sea. We had a salvage job in Anahuac one time. We had to take a old cement tanker out to a deep trench and sink it. And the explosive charges along the keel, supposed to have been 7 of them, and only 3 of them went off. So then the other 4 were charged and they couldn't go back out there. So we ended up sinking her with our 3-inch cannon off our ship, and which was good. These guys were good shots with that 3-inch. And we had one job in Yokosuka, Japan. We pulled in and tied up, and my buddy that I ran with quite a bit and I had been to Japan before, so we let all the new guys take their showers and go ashore. It was what we call 3-section liberty. And 1/3 of the crew stayed on the ship on duty, and the other 2/3 could go ashore. Well, we were part of the 2/3 that could go ashore, but we had taken our time and let everybody else leave. And just about the time that we hit the gangplank at the quarterdeck, we were stopped because there was an emergency out at sea. And so we were the only 2 left on the ship that had liberty that could have been on the beach. And I was really glad it worked out that way, because there was a Chinese ore freighter that was in danger of sinking about 300 miles out. And we were asked to go out there and retrieve her with 1/3 of the crew. And so we went out there. It took us a couple, 3 days to get out there, and it was pretty rough. She was in danger of rolling over. They had abandoned ship except for the captain. And we finally got a line on her and headed back towards Yokosuka, but she had no power. They'd shut everything down, and the rudder was stuck on 10 degrees starboard rudder. So it was like a big scallop. It wouldn't tow in a straight line. It would curve way out to the right, and then it would pull it around, and we went 300 miles like that back to the Yokosuka. Very slow, but we saved it, and we got her back in there, and that was a high point, one of my high points in the career that I had really enjoyed. Got a lot of good pictures of that. And then I spent 3 years on the USS Abnaki, was transferred to the USS Chipola, AO 63, temporarily for about 4 months, because the other tug that I was being assigned to was out to sea, and it was the USS Moktobe, ATF 105, and I spent the last year on the Moktobe. But the Abnaki was, I considered that my home. That was the first tug I was on, and knew everybody, and I liked it on there very well. It was very good duty. But the Abnaki was, I considered that my home. That was the first tug I was on, and knew everybody, and I liked it on there very well. It was very good duty.